Today's case is not about violence, not about cheating, not about betrayal in the dramatic sense. It's about a lease, a shared apartment, and the moment someone decided that enforcing the rules was worth being called heartless. Welcome back to Internet Court. This is the case of a roommate agreement that slowly unraveled. And the question before this court is simple. Was enforcing the lease justified, or was it cruel? The person at the center of this case is a man named Ryan, 30 years old, quiet, organized, and deeply conflict-averse. He lived in a two-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city. Nothing fancy, but clean, stable, predictable. When his previous roommate moved out, Ryan didn't rush to replace them, but then a coworker, Alex, mentioned needing a place. Alex was friendly, charming, a little chaotic, but likable. They talked logistics, rent split evenly, utilities shared, no subletting, no long-term guests. Everything went in writing. Ryan believed rules prevented resentment. Alex agreed, at least verbally. The first month was fine. The second month was slightly off. Alex started leaving dishes overnight. Music played a little louder. Friends stayed a little later. Ryan noticed, but said nothing. Then the overnight guests began. At first, it was framed as temporary. Just a few nights. Just crashing after a late shift. Ryan checked the lease. Guests longer than 7 days required approval. He reminded Alex, calmly. Alex nodded, smiled, said it wouldn't happen again. It happened again, then again. By month 4, someone new was sleeping on the couch regularly. Ryan's utilities doubled. His groceries vanished faster. His quiet apartment no longer felt like his. Still, he waited. The turning point didn't come with yelling. It came with an email. The landlord reached out asking if the unit had unauthorized occupants. Ryan stared at the screen. This wasn't theoretical anymore. If the lease was violated, both tenants were responsible. Eviction wouldn't care who invited the guest. That night, Ryan confronted Alex. Calm voice. Printed lease. Clear terms. Alex reacted defensively. It's not that serious. You're overreacting. Why are you being like this? Ryan felt something shift. Not anger, fear. When Ryan later posted his story online, the first wave of comments split immediately. One user wrote, "You signed a lease, not a vibes agreement. Enforcing it isn't cruelty." Another disagreed. "Housing is hard. You could have worked with them instead of threatening eviction." A third commenter warned, "Once the landlord is involved, the situation is already past saving." The jury was forming, but no verdict yet. Ryan gave Alex 2 options. Remove the long-term guest, or Ryan would formally notify the landlord. Alex exploded. Accusations flew. Ryan was cold, unempathetic, obsessed with rules. Alex accused him of choosing paperwork over people. But the guest didn't leave. Instead, Alex stopped paying utilities. Ryan covered them. Then rent came up short. Ryan asked once. Alex said they were working on it. The landlord followed up again. Ryan realized something painful. By avoiding conflict earlier, he had delayed it, not prevented it. And now the cost was higher. This is where Reddit became sharply divided. One contrarian wrote, "You created this by letting it slide. Now you're punishing them for your silence." Another countered, "Boundaries enforced late are still boundaries." A neutral commenter added, "Both people failed communication, but only one is risking eviction." The comment section turned into a courtroom, just like this one. So, This is the core question. Is enforcing a lease an act of protection or an act of abandonment? Does compassion require flexibility, or does responsibility require firmness? And at what point does tolerance become self-sabotage? Ryan wasn't asking to punish. He was asking to feel safe in his own home. Was that too much? Many commenters asked the same thing. What if Ryan had enforced the rules sooner? What if he had said no after the first overnight guest? Would Alex have adjusted, or would the conflict have arrived anyway? And what if Ryan had stayed silent even longer? Would the situation have resolved or collapsed completely? Sometimes the hardest part of boundaries is timing. Ryan notified the landlord, formally, in writing. The landlord issued a lease violation notice. Alex was furious. They moved out within 30 days. The apartment returned to quiet, but the silence wasn't peaceful at first. Ryan felt guilt, second-guessing, isolation. Weeks passed, then months. His finances stabilized. His sleep improved. The anxiety faded. But the question remained. Did he do the right thing, or simply the legal thing? On Reddit, commenters didn't just debate rules. They debated responsibility. Some argued that Ryan didn't just enforce a lease, he enforced adulthood. They pointed out that housing isn't casual. It's contracts, liability, risk. Ryan wasn't just protecting himself. He was protecting his future. Others disagreed. They argued that legality doesn't always equal morality, that compassion sometimes means absorbing inconvenience, that shared housing requires flexibility. One commenter phrased it simply, "You didn't owe him silence, but you also didn't have to go nuclear." And that idea lingered, because once the landlord entered the picture, there was no middle ground left. Several commenters focused on one moment, not the notice, not the argument, the email from the landlord. That was the pivot point. Up until then, Ryan still had control. After that, the situation controlled him. Some jurors argued that once third parties are involved, the ethical burden shifts. Ryan wasn't choosing between kindness and cruelty anymore. He was choosing between action and risk. And in that moment, inaction was no longer neutral. A second wave of comments focused less on Alex and more on Ryan. One commenter wrote, "The real mistake wasn't enforcing the lease. It was waiting until enforcement became punishment." Another pushed back. "That's victim blaming. Setting boundaries late doesn't make them invalid." A third added, "People confuse kindness with avoidance. Ryan avoided conflict until it exploded." This shifted the debate, because now the question wasn't just what Ryan did, it was when he did it. Several users with property management experience weighed in. They explained something important. Housing disputes don't usually explode, they rot. Small compromises stack. Unspoken resentment builds. Then one administrative trigger ends everything. Ryan didn't snap. The system did. And once systems move, they don't pause for feelings. Commenters asked another uncomfortable question. What if Alex had said the guest was permanent? What if they'd asked for permission instead of forgiveness? Would Ryan have said no, or would they have renegotiated? Some believed Alex avoided honesty because honesty risked rejection. Others believed Alex assumed entitlement. Either way, the absence of transparency forced the worst possible outcome. One thoughtful comment reframed the entire story. Power isn't yelling. Power is paperwork. Ryan didn't raise his voice. He raised a document. That made some commenters uncomfortable, because power exercised quietly often feels harsher than power exercised loudly, but others argued the opposite. That quiet enforcement is the most ethical form of authority. No drama, no revenge, just consequences. Months later, Ryan reflected privately. Not on Alex, on himself. He learned that avoiding conflict doesn't prevent harm. It delays it. He learned that boundaries aren't unkind, but unclear boundaries are. And most importantly, he learned that protecting your home is not the same as betraying someone else, even when it feels like it. And so, the case rests with you. Was Ryan justified in enforcing the lease and protecting his housing, or should compassion have outweighed the contract? Internet court is adjourned, but your verdict belongs in the comments. Was he wrong? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, consider hitting like and subscribe. It's always appreciated.